So thank you. So the question I have for you is, what does hope mean to you? What does hope mean to you? And feel free to come off mute. You can raise your hand or place it in the chat. Anyone?
Pat
Yes.
Bellingham. To me, hope is, despite causes and conditions, I can still find the will to move forward a little bit.
Mm, beautiful. And Patty says it means the promise to for future. Beautiful. Anything else that what does hope mean for you?
Crystal Bellingham. Hope means impermanence because things can always get better.
Yes, it's true. Very true, Crystal.
Crystal Bellingham.
Beautiful. And Annie says the opposite of despair. Tanya says possibility. Uh, Sheila, the hope for me is being part of a Sangha and community, staying open and curious, from Kim. And Joanne says a vision that um, love and goodness trumps hatred and confusion. Hope means staying open and excited about life. So I love all of these. Yeah. Recognizing the presence and goodness of the world and among people and nature. This is great. Can I go now? No, I'm just teasing. This is lovely. I'm just freedom. Yes. So I'm loving all of that. So here's the premise of the book and a little bit of what I've learned in the years of writing the book and thinking about hope and thinking about my life. And that is that the conventional definition of hope needs to be more robust, more layered for these complex times that we're living in. So the conventional definition of hope is in an very much what you've pointed out. It's this kind of optimistic mind state, but it comes with a tinge, and that tinge is an expectation for a positive outcome, right, to the thing that we hope for. So there's also hope as in wishful thinking, and we know that hope as in wishful thinking uh, doesn't work in the times that we're living in, with the complexity, the fragility, and the ambiguity of the times that we're living in. We know too that hope that is overly focused on desire and anticipation of outcomes, well, we know that chasing an end goal, whatever the end goal is, leads to suffering. We know this from the Four Noble Truths. So I want to share a personal example in my own life to illustrate this point. So recently I was divorced, and getting divorced was the very last thing that I wanted to have happen. And I was very much clinging to a very troubled marriage. And it took a lot for me to let go of hope as in wishful thinking or the false hope, and to see the reality of this troubled relationship, and then to shift my focus to my values, which were to live a life of compassionate action and to have a sense of belonging. These are very important values for me. But what again I understand about hope is that it is important to have an optimistic mind state, all the things that you've described, but also to be aware of our attachment, our clinging to the end goal, to the outcome, and how problematic that can be. So we need hope. We need courage as a part of hope. The courage to look at our motivations, the courage to look at our values, the courage to look at our aspiration, and to have that arise from bodhicitta, to have that arise from a mind that's situated in love. And so we also know that even the goal of even the aspiration of leading a compassionate life, even that is not something to fight, kill, or die for, but to move in this direction. And so we practice with hope the quality of aimlessness, or as Master Lin Chi says, businesslessness. I'll say the word again, businesslessness, meaning that we don't chase after whatever the aim of our desire is. Or to put it in the words of Shams, who was the spiritual teacher of Rumi, Shams said that we should live our lives in such a way that what we want also wants us, is actually looking for us, and is attracting us. How about that? How about if you lived your life with the reality that what you want actually wants you more than what you want, is actually seeking you, is looking for you, is knocking down the door for you. That thing that you want so much wants you more than you want it. That's what I'm talking about. And so hope is not a singular state of mind. Hope contains fear. Why would I say that hope contains fear? Anybody?
Crystal Milligan, because as you're hoping for something, you're also hoping that something doesn't show up. And that thing that you're hoping that you perceive as negative, in other words, when you want something, there's also the flip side is something that you don't want. So it's dependent co-arising, as I always taught. And the thing that you don't want, quite often in my case, which is why I was so quick to bow in, is something I'm afraid of. Crystal bowing out.
It's beautiful, Crystal. Yes, it's so true that with hope there's the fear that we may not get what we really want. And Deborah says, yeah, it's kind of focused in the future, and none of us have a crystal ball. So it's possible that we will not get it. And so you kind of think of hope as hope and fear like two wings, the wings of a bird, two sides of the same coin.
Mm.
But hope also carries with it courage. And why would I say hope carries with it courage?
Mm.
Anyone?
Yes, yes.
Richard?
Well, first I would say that hope is a practice. It's not just a passive orientation towards life. And if I understand that hope is a practice, then I understand that I have a responsibility that comes with that hope to move in the direction that hope is pointing. And of course, that often takes courage. And there's the fear, if I'm looking at an end goal for my actions, there's the fear I won't get there. But I don't need to look at the end goal. What I need to do is look at my practice and see that I am, like with the 5 mindfulness trainings, that I am on a path that's aligned with my hope.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. Yes. So it takes courage, the practice of courage. And it was around this time in 1967 that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave a beautiful sermon. It's often called the Christmas sermon. And in this sermon, he described hope as a vitality that keeps us moving forward, right? So King famously said, quote, "If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And hence, hope moves forward. We move in the direction of what matters most. The question is, do you know what matters most? Are you aware of your values? The very first question I asked you was, what brought you here? What is your volition, your aspiration and intention? And so we allow that volition to rest in the ground of bodhicitta, a mind that is resting in love. This is not easy in our daily life because of the heavy burdens of just living our life. And so we're invited to periodically take an inventory like we're doing tonight. And many people, quite frankly, have done that in this global pandemic. They've been asking themselves, what does it mean to live in the direction of my values, to live with intention, to live an awakened life? And many writers and people, as Richard has pointed out, speak about this. So Joan Halifax Roshi Joan talks about wise hope, that rests in radical uncertainty. We cannot know. Or Joanna Macy, the environmental activist, talks about the distinction between active and passive hope, as you know, that hope that asks us to see clearly the reality of the way things are and then act from our values. Or Rebecca Solnit, the writer, who says that both hope and urgency coexist. We acknowledge that the stakes are high: climate crisis and racial injustice, the political divisiveness. So this leads to the skills of hope. And this is why I say that hope is a skill. So let's go to the next slide. This is my ruminations about the skill, the cultivation of hope. These are the skills that are needed. And so hope as a skill, a practice, as Richard points out, that anchors us in our daily life. Hope is situated in the present moment, but aspires toward a vision of the future. It arises out of the ground of uncertainty, and it is deeply impermanent, as Crystal said. We don't know what's going to happen. But moving toward hope enlarges us. It asks us to be resourceful, adaptive, courage, patient, and to engage in a certain readiness. And the very ground of hope is interbeing, meaning that whatever happens to me affects you. What happens to you is going to affect me. What happens in Wuhan, China affects people in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And the formation, the foundation is a mind of bodhicitta. And that leads to the next slide. So this act of the skill of hope is situated in how we wake up to life. And we have a framework to do that with the 7 factors of awakening. So we live a life that is mindful. And what does that fancy word mindful means? I ask you to feel your feet on the ground, to feel your breath in the body. So we're grounded in an awareness of the present moment, the breath coming in, the breath going out, the spine and the back of my body. There's a quality of investigation, meaning what we're doing right now. We're engaged in an active exploration. There is an energetic component to this skill that takes an ease, meaning we're not chasing after it. We practice aimlessness, businesslessness, meaning we have something important, but we don't chase after it like our life depended on it. But there is effort. There's a tension inherent in that. A mindful heart is a joyful heart, meaning that we cultivate this generative heart and mind. And we do this in moments of delight, like the moment right now. Can we find delight in this very moment, this very breath? There is a quality of tranquility in this way of being. And by that, I mean humility. We don't know what's going to happen. So we move in the world with, this is why we wear the brown jacket. We move in the world with a quality of humility. And it takes concentration, meaning that we're holding this tension of clear seeing, urgency, as Rebecca Solnit points out, and the vision of what tomorrow can bring. And all of it rests in the steadiness of practice and patience and equanimity that arises from the practice. So that then leads to the next slide. We are becoming baby bodhisattvas. Didn't know that, did you? We are becoming baby bodhisattvas in this way. Great beings. In this practice, in living our deepest values, our deepest intention. And how do we become baby bodhisattvas? We begin by asking ourselves, what are my values? What matters most and why? And what does it mean to act in an awakened way? So yeah, it's what we care about. So now we have an opportunity to practice being a baby bodhisattva. So with these questions, queries, if as a member of the Religious Society of Friends, we don't really call these questions, we call them queries. They're not something we have an answer to, but something we allow to simply, as an aimlessness. You don't answer this and check a box. But to explore, this is our learning lab, right? So I'd like you to take maybe a couple of minutes, surely not enough time, but 3 or 4 minutes to consider a value, something that you care about, and why that is important. And then what one small step you might take that moves you in that direction. So some quiet time for you, and then we'll go into a little breakout room to have a chat. So I'll keep time, Mitchell, and come back. Let's just say 2 minutes or so.